Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing, and thank you, Chair Yellen, for making yourself available to testify today. Just a few weeks ago, we passed the 9th anniversary of the Lehman Brothers failure, leading up to 2008. Much of the risk in our banking system went entirely unchecked by regulators. Failure to quickly address fraud and mismanagement resulted in the loss of more than 8 million jobs, as unemployment topped 10%. Millions of families lost their homes, and entire industries were on the brink of collapse. Congress responded to this devastation by passing the most comprehensive overhaul of our financial system since the Great Depression, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. The Dodd-Frank Act greatly increased the Fed's responsibility and authority for safeguarding the financial system, but also set minimum standards to ensure that regulators didn't lose sight of emerging risk again. The Dodd-Frank Act has required regulators to increase capital and liquidity standards, reduce interconnection in the financial markets, and more closely scrutinize large financial firms' risk management. However, there's much work left to be done. As we have seen from the enormous failure of risk management at Wells Fargo, it's important to remind the committee and the public why these reforms were necessary in the first place. Fraudulent retail banking practices may not, in and of themselves, pose systemic risk, but they surely indicate mismanagement that could be catastrophic in riskier and more complex divisions of a bank holding company. Supervisors and law enforcement must continue to hold both institutions and individuals accountable. Chair Yellen, I know you would keep that in mind over the next several weeks as you review living wills from the 5 banks that failed their submissions in April, and that includes Wells Fargo. Chair Yellen, I'm eager to hear about the Fed's progress in implementing Wall Street reform and how the board's supervision practices have evolved over the last several years. Specifically, I'm interested to hear more about how the Fed is using the flexibility embedded in Dodd-Frank to tailor regulations appropriate to the sizes and risks of different types of banks. Dodd-Frank also provided the Fed, in consultation with the Financial Stability Oversight Council, with new responsibility to regulate the activities of systemically risky non-banks, entities such as the insurance company AIG, whose near failure imposed dire systemic consequences on our economy just 8 years ago. Since the passage of Dodd-Frank, Congress has given the Federal Reserve additional authority in setting capital standards for insurance firms subject to enhanced supervision. Look forward to hearing about the board's progress on regulating insurers. Yet, just a few weeks ago in this committee, the Republicans pushed a bill that would severely undermine efforts by the Fed to regulate the financial system. The chairman's misguided legislation would repeal the Financial Stability Oversight Council's ability to designate non-banks for enhanced supervision by the Fed, creating a huge swath of unmonitored risk in our financial system. The legislation would also replace carefully considered limits on banking activities with nothing but an insufficient 10% equity cushion, encouraging the reckless and risky behavior that nearly destroyed our economy in 2008. Moreover, as we in Congress consider another funding resolution, we must be mindful of continued attempts to defund regulators' work implementing Dodd-Frank. For the first time in recent memory, economic data indicates that the middle class is benefiting from the recovery. Failure to heed the lessons of the past will put that progress in jeopardy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back the balance of my time.